Big jury awards. Hey, we hear about them all the time. But in the real world, what happens to these large awards? Well, that takes us to this week's case. Involves a real man, a real case. Virginia. Man worked as a longshoreman and he repaired supertankers that were being used by the Exxon Corporation. In that work, which began for him in 1953, he was occasionally exposed to asbestos dust. Well, after years of doing this kind of work, he essentially developed what was called asbestosis for all intents and purposes, a debilitating disease that many times produces death. He brought claim against Exxon, along with a number of other people, contending that Exxon failed to take sufficient efforts to prevent this kind of exposure to the asbestos dust. Well, the case went forward, went to a jury, and the jury said, hey, you are absolutely right. Exxon really screwed up here, and we're going to award $12.5 million to pay you for all the hassles, your medical expenses, the ongoing medical expenses you'll have, and everything that you've had to deal with in life as a result of that. In addition, we think Exxon acted so badly, we're going to punish them with what's referred to as punitive damages in the amount of $12.5 million for a total of $25 million. Well, Exxon wasn't happy with this, and at the trial court level, they moved that the judge reduce the punitive damages. The judge agreed to do that. The judge agreed to reduce the punitive damages, and he reduced them to $5 million, less than half of the $12 million. They also asked the judge to consider and to grant a new trial, that they wanted to bring in different evidence that would indicate that they were not responsible for everything that took place there. Well, the judge did not grant a new trial, so they appealed it. They appealed it, went all the way up to the Virginia Supreme Court. And there the court looked at it, and they did a couple of things. One, they looked at the award and they said, you know, we find that under the statute where this claim was brought, under the Longshoremen's Act, that you, Mr. Plaintiff, cannot sue for punitive damages. Therefore, we're going to throw out all the punitive damages. So that $12 million, that's gone, period, out the door. The other thing we're going to do is we are going to grant a new trial. We're going to grant a new trial so that Exxon can bring in different information before the jury and indicate why they were not at fault here. So this case is going to go back to the trial court, and Exxon's going to be able to bring in new information, and this is going to be tried all over again. But you're never going to get those punitive damages. So say adios to those. Okay. So what do we learn from this case? Well, we learn something important, and that is something the newspapers and the media generally don't tell us, and that is that the majority of large verdicts, the majority of verdicts that are appealed are either reduced significantly or thrown out entirely. Of every 3 cases which are appealed by a defendant are either thrown out or they have a judge and a group of appellate judges who reduce those awards quite a bit. So while you hear about these large awards, in the real world, as is demonstrated by this case, those big awards don't stick around. And the plaintiff doesn't wind up being able to put that money in his or her pocket. Instead, many times those awards disappear entirely or are substantially reduced. Okay, we bring you this case as we bring cases every week so you understand how the law really works. I'm David Allen.